Hi, everyone. It's Ed here, and welcome to another edition of EDTalks. I want to tackle another topic often discussed but seldom actualized, and that's the whole concept of strategy. And again, in case you missed the other episode, I'll put it in the show notes. But Kerry Pauling, welcome back to EDTalks.
Ed, glad to be back. Thank you. Thank you for that introduction.
And so, for those who didn't see that episode, you'll need to turn into it because we talked a lot about digital transformation. So, again, I'll put those in the show notes. So, on strategy, Kerry, what is your guess in terms of how many organizations, we're talking across all verticals, but how many companies, what percent of companies do you think have an overall company enterprise wide strategy?
Wow, that's a heck of a question. I would say probably from a business perspective, I'd say 75% probably do. They
Yeah.
spend time on it. They have a common desire to serve the customer. So I think it helps them put a strategy together. So 75% would be my answer.
I think that's a pretty good guess based on my experience as well. When we break it down and we go into IT, what percent of those companies do you think have a actual written IT strategy?
Probably less than 30%, Ed, to be honest about it. At least from my experience. And
Yeah.
I've experienced that here in the US, South America, Europe. I'd say under 30 for sure.
I did a little bit of empirical research on that in terms in healthcare, and we found the number to be around 15, 20% had a strategy. And then my concern, Kerry, because again, I developed strategies when I was a CIO, and I know how this happens, and it happened to me. But you develop your strategy, but how many of that percent, you always wonder how many are actually using it or keeping it updated, as an actual document that helps drive sort of what they're trying to do on the business side. So I don't know what the percentage is there, but it's a lot, it's another, standard deviation below what we've been talking about. Kerry, one key element of a strategy, now we're talking technical, digital, IT strategy, is having a financial aspect to that. Can you tell us a little bit about your thoughts related to that in terms of including financial strategy and the IT strategy?
Yeah, I can, Ed. And I will tell you of that 30%, it's probably driven from the fact that a lot of them don't have organizational or financial strategies, in their plan. And let's be honest, every company is having to go figure out and go through a digital transformation right now. And every company is dealing with the fact that they have legacy systems, they're trying to move to the cloud. All of that is occurring because they need to create this, this speed and flexibility in the organization. But that means you've got P&Ls that are going from CapEx, traditional P&Ls, to OpEx P&Ls. And how do you manage that transition and do it in a way that you're making good business decisions and you're not just creating an IT footprint that's just larger than what you had before.
Yeah.
That comes, and with that comes more maintenance and everything else and licensing, et cetera.
Kerry, do you have any practical wisdom on how an IT leader might cozy up with their financial counterparts and ensure, a good strategy and support for that strategy?
Yeah, I do have some tidbits I would share. Number one is I think to your CFO or wherever the IT organization goes to get funding, you basically have to display and show the company that your area is running efficiently. So the first thing you have to do is to make sure that you've went through all of your products and all of your licensing, and you're turning off software that you're not using, or you're at least scaling it back. Everything that you possibly can to prove that you've done the financial diligence, so that when you do go and you ask for the incremental funding, which you will need to go through a digital transformation, you can at least prove to them that the curve may not be that steep. It may be a little more flatter as you go through the 3 or 4 years you're going to need as you reimagine your IT systems and where you're headed in the future. So I think that's number one. And until you get that credibility in place, that you're investing in projects, you're getting return on your projects, you're using the right methodology. And I don't care if it's agile or waterfall, it doesn't matter as long as what you're using is as efficient as it possibly can be. You have to do all of those things before I think you're going to get the additional, uh, budget that you would like to have to truly drive a company.
Kerry, I realized halfway through here that I failed to give you a proper introduction. We just dived right into it because we had done an EDTalks together before. But I think it'll be helpful for the audience who's new to you to understand a little bit about your background, because when we talk here about strategy, you had to develop strategy for, is it the largest corporation in the world, or certainly one of them? So can you share a little bit about your background?
Yeah, so my background is a University of Arkansas industrial engineering degree. Got a chance with a great company, Walmart, got in their supply chain space, did some wonderful engineering projects. Quickly got tagged to go to technology. I'm a tech geek at heart to a great degree. I had a chance to have some form or fashion of most of all of Walmart's systems, and retired at Walmart after 28, 29 years as a CTO of Walmart International, which meant I had an opportunity to interact with many of the CIOs that also reported to me in the international markets as we worked through their strategy and their challenges as to what would it take for them to be more efficient at serving their customers.
Yeah, no, that's great, and I appreciate you being here. And that's how we got connected. Just so everyone knows, is through Aberdeen Advisors, who does a lot of advisory, not just in healthcare but in other verticals as well. And I know them through a board role that I have, and they're doing the IT strategy for that particular health system. And you come alongside of them sometimes and help them as well. So I appreciate your insights on strategies. Given, Kerry, all your experience, if someone's watching, and again, we're estimating maybe 70-80% of tech leaders watching saying, oh, I know I should have a strategy, I don't have a strategy, where do I start? What's some practical advice that you might share in terms of where do you start, in addition to making sure you include your finance colleagues?
Yeah, I think number one is you have to step back and say, what's relevant to my customer today? What's truly going to make a difference to improve the business and the business processes? And you start there and you get the organization aligned to, everything that we're doing is to serve the customer. And based off of that, I think it starts to make the decisions that you have to make in a strategy come together. And, they don't have to be concrete. You can have a trick, Ed, that I've used in the past is a set of principles or a set of guidelines that says this is how we're going to make decisions on where we invest in technology, where we don't invest in technology. So there's many approaches. All can be tailored, obviously, towards the company and the specific needs of it. But that's just one tactic.
Yeah. Kerry, that's brilliant insights, because I think one reason leaders are afraid to develop strategy is they think it has to be a 100-slide PowerPoint deck, right? They think it has to be super detailed and promises the world in the next 3 to 5 years. But it can be a simple and a great starting point, like you're talking about, is what are the guidelines? What are the operating principles for technology in your hospital, in your organization? How do we make decisions? The whole governance piece of it. And then, and I'm just repeating, Kerry, what you said, but just saying it in a different way. The other important thing you talked about was organizational alignment. And how do you achieve that? It is simple. What is the customer needs, and how do you improve the business? So you're talking about both internal focus and external focus, and that goes right into the way the organization operates with the mission and vision. And lastly, but I'm going to leave you with the last word. I'm just summarizing some of the great things you said already, just to make sure everyone got this. Is you have to establish your credibility, particularly with finance, but also with the rest of the organization. So when you have these bolder ideas, they're more likely to embrace what you do, what you're trying to accomplish. So, Kerry, that was a bunch in 10 minutes. Is there something that we missed? Is there one other hack, if you will, that you might share with our audience?
Yeah, as companies are going through digital transformation, as companies are working on their tech strategy, the role of the CTO and the CIO has changed. They have to not just be tech leaders, but they have to be tech leaders and they have to be business leaders. And they have to be able to tell a convincing story that can help align a company to a common goal. And I believe making decisions based off a set of principles is one of the easiest ways to go about solving that problem.
Kerry, this has been great. Thank you so much for sharing with us your experiences and your ideas on how to develop strategy, especially when you're starting from scratch. Thanks for being a guest on EDTalks.
I appreciate it, Ed. Have a great day.